folks, looks like I'm back on my bullshit, as I've had one of my little nostalgic obsessions restoked today. Old video games, and their manuals full of weird, disconnected lore.
Old games like this are a wealth of strange stuff. Raw, unrefined creativity, swirled indiscriminately with deadline-defying half-assery. The formula hadn't been nailed down and sterilized yet, so everyone was basically throwing everything at the wall and seeing what stuck. And a lot of that is evident in how much stuff makers crammed into their manuals.
I kind of want to do this whole thing about how it compares to modern video game design and the complaint about games holding your hand and telling you all the game mechanics, when that's really just a result of more storage space becoming available. So the thing that used to tell you virtually everything about the game and its mechanics and contents, the extensive pack-in booklet, became a less cost-effective way to hold the player's hand and keep them playing by promising more to come. But Jim didn't want to make that a thing and just wanted to go with fairly harmless happy nostalgia.
Everything was perfect when you were 8, which isn't actually true, but it sure feels true.
I used to pore over video game pack-in manuals. I'd sneak them into school so I could study them while waiting to get home and play the games. But to me, the best part were the miniature bestiaries that laid out the wacky monsters you'd be fighting, usually with some weird quips or snippets of backstory that never tied into anything, which made it especially cool when the game threw a baddie at you that wasn't in the booklet. Suddenly you were in uncharted territory. Who knows what the bad guy could do?
9 times out of 10, it'd be like 9 out of 10 enemies and bum rush you or just wander around in a small area. But wasn't that first couple seconds of discovery really exciting? And what was this thing's name? So that's what we're gonna do here. We're gonna go poking these digital monsters with sticks like some Cocoa Puff-addled David Attenborough in a little thing we like to call...
Kicking off this probably ongoing-ish video series is the slew of pixels I've been writing fanfic about lately. Konami's original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game for the Nintendo Entertainment System. Yes, the one with the infamously annoying electric seaweed-laden underwater stage. The enemies from this game are fascinating to me because the game looks to me like it was made a really interesting point in the toy line and cartoon's development process, near as I can figure. This would have been after the earliest concept we knew about from Peter Laird's blog, where Shredder and his 4 cheating mutants were a direct one-to-one rival group to Splinter and the Turtles, but before the universe the initial cartoon miniseries would set up had fully gelled, and likely before many major character designs were finalized. While I could go on for ages on what all this means and the reasons I believe it...
Reel it in, Charlie.
Right, sorry. In short, there obviously wasn't much established material for Konami to work with yet. Maybe a rough treatment, a handful of early toy designs, and some Mirage Comics material. The result is much like the Marvel Star Wars comics. Strange, divergent, and yet weirdly plausible given the time. So let's take an uncomfortably deep dive into the forgotten 8-bit foes of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and see what they say about this tangential mini-continuity.
Let's get the foes we know about out of the way first. You got your foot soldiers and Mousers as early baddies, but weirdly, they aren't in the game much at all, especially the further in you get. Ironically, the closer you get to the Foot Clan base, the less Foot you face. You got your Bebop and Rocksteady as boss baddies, you fight the Technotrome before jumping inside it, and of course, the goddamn Shredder awaits you at the end of the game with his demutation ray. Hey, remember when that was gonna be a big deal? And, that's it. Pretty much everything else in the game is Konami's original creations.
There's no mention whatsoever of Krang, which is extra odd given the box art shows a comic cover featuring the Utrom aliens that would be adapted into Krang, which leads me to believe...
Starch? Focus.
Alright, okay. Keeping the focus on literally everybody else. Let's start with the weirdies you can find in the manual. This chapter is called Enemies Galore, which is true for the game, but not for the single page of enemies in the manual. The manual tells us this. Ignorant to the force of gravity, this pesty sewer thug, the product of a horrible chemical spill, bounces around on ceiling pipes waiting to rain terror from above. Chemical spill created sewer mutants. Now we're talking. I love the implication that they're immune to gravity simply because they don't know about it.
An ex-pyromaniac from Brooklyn, this hot dog takes careful aim before launching fireballs that turn into clones of himself. One's gotta assume there was some mutagen involved in Fire Freak's career change from Pyro to Foot Clan stooge. There's something very NES-y about dude made of fire that throws other dudes made of fire at you. It's certainly a different twist on dude made of fire. and one I kinda want to see a modern Turtle Tune tackle.
And now we're scraping the barrel. You can't even fight these guys. They're an obstacle that spawns overmap foot soldiers.
This thing just screams, should have been a toy. And it should have. But it's not. And that's the most interesting thing to say about it. It's an obstacle that you whack with a missile on the overmap. That's about it. Yay.
Appearing like your average turtle, this level 3 commander will show his true colors if you do him any harm. They probably meant M-E-C-H, a turtle, but the manual says no H. Nintendo Power calls him Mecha Turtle with a K, but this is the Isle of Rangoon, where we fully address the pedantry and then go with the doofiest option, so H-less C it is. Mecha Turtle is basically the Terminator wearing an off-color Leonardo suit instead of the usual Austrian wear. Oh, and he's got swords for hands and shoots missiles. I have to wonder if Mecha Turtle was a prototype for Metalhead and the other Robo-Turtles throughout the series. The Faker-like blue Leonardo with orange gear disguise tempts me towards figure customization, but I've been barred from that after I accidentally melted one of Trent's McChangeable Happy Meal toys. And that's it. So, how many non-manual enemies are there? Ooh boy.
And here's where things get weird. Yeah, I know. Ninja Turtles being weird, who'da thunk it? These are all the loons the manual didn't cover, and it's an extensive list. Some of these jerks got names in Nintendo Power, but the canonicity of any of them is, well, let's politely go with questionable. So, we'll let you know when the ol' MP named them, even though we're likely gonna go with what we made up. And of course, thanks to the vagueness of the sprites, there's a lot of stuff that might be robots, might be mutants, might be something else entirely. Let's dig in! First up is your basic, aimlessly fly back and forth baddie. It's hard to tell from the sprite, but it's either some kind of mutated wasp or a bug-shaped robot used by the foot. Big bugs are about as generic as they come. Big robot bugs slightly less so, and it certainly puts one in mind of Galaga. But honestly, either one fits into the weird world of Ninja Turtles well enough. Next!
Nintendo Power called this guy Chainsaw Maniac, but I prefer the portmanteau Chainsawyak. This guy is an enigma, wrapped in a riddle, wrapped in standard 80s video game logic. All we know for sure is he loves 1. Chainsaws, 2. Waving chainsaws wildly while walking back and forth, and 3. Purple pants with footies. Probably not in that order. He seems to be wearing either a hockey mask, making him a lazy Leatherface/Jason mashup, or a flesh-tone Iron Man helmet, which makes him my favorite SDCC cosplayer this year.
It's just a jet. It drops bombs kinda in your vaguish general direction in the airbase stage. No one ever explains why the turtle blimp is at an airbase, or why an airbase is full of foot minions, so one can only assume that this is friendly fire from the US military, which is trying to bomb the bejesus out of the invading giant Mauser boss. Look, so far I'm not being given a lot to work with here, folks.
Krang saw the destructive power of a heat-seeking missile and said, "That's good, but can we make it slower and less effective?"
I thought Krang wasn't in this game.
We're ham-fistedly shoving all this stuff into Fred Wolf canon, so just play along.
Ah, gotcha.
So, thus tasked with making explosives less useful, Krang's minions came up with this. A Nerf football missile with wings cribbed from a flying machine from Leonardo da Vinci's notebooks. If it gets near you, it dives at you like a suicidal hawk. I'd say this was a dumb idea for a weapon, but Krang's minions literally have rocks in their heads. So I'll grade on a curve and give this a B, mostly for creativity.
So, maybe this Golemite guy is supposed to be one of Krang's aforementioned rock soldiers? It's as good an explanation as any. He crouches down into a sleeping position to go invulnerable, or maybe he's going potty, and once he's upright, he's throwing vague crescents of energy at you.
These aren't the spotlights from the map screens. They're just as interesting, though. Your standard issue flying robot spy that does damage on impact. They have this weird floaty undulating pattern that makes them hard to hit. Not too much to write home about, unless of course you're a fan of the 1987 Jessica Tandy sci-fi comedy Batteries Not Included.
Okay, this is some kind of flying mutant crustacean? They might be beetles, or claw shrimp, or mosquitoes. I like to think they're shrimp. It makes them slightly less hateable as they knock you out of the air while you're making stupidly precise jumps.
Part of me really wants to think this was a toy concept that got abandoned. It's certainly goofy in that toyetic way. It's a party balloon with a mechanical claw holding a bomb. It flies over you with its flapping wings. Why? And just drops it, proving once again that the Foot are leaders in the field of overly complicated and underly effective explosive delivery systems.
At first glance, I thought this guy was sort of a sub-Bebop pig mutant, but on closer inspection, I think he looks more like Vin Diesel wearing red sweatpants and wraparound shades. Stylin'. He hops around like a jackass and throws boomerangs at you. Because in 80s video games, you couldn't swing a dead cat without it being knocked out of the air by a flying boomerang thrown by some low-level schmuck. Big Boomerang had an iron grip on the video game industry, so anyone who could fling one was sitting pretty.
Their eyes, one of the most vulnerable parts of the body, stripped of their meager defenses, with some spider legs staple gunned on, and let loose with nothing so much as a mouth. Look at how bloodshot they are. Every piece of dust they touch is burning agony. A normal spider would have been more dangerous, but crawling eyes are more about squicking the enemy than actually hurting them.
Well, them turtle boys are just about doomed to run into mutant frogs or toads no matter where they go. They hop, they hit you with their tongues, pretty straightforward. Not trying real hard there, Kermit. The goddamn Shredder hasn't seen clear to give these guys clothing, and they show no skills, martial arts or otherwise, so their employment prospects post-Foot, pretty slim. Nintendo Power went minimalist and called them giant frogs, a concisely uninspired name for an uninspiring mutant.
One of the many, 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 many enemies that hop in this game, this guy's my favorite. I love his blue color scheme, his very humanoid mutant bipedal design, the whole package. I imagine him as sort of a fast-talking swindler working for the Foot Clan to make ends meet. Probably sounds like the Scout from Team Fortress.
Grass grows, birds fly, sun shines, and brother, I hurt people.
Ooh, sorry to interrupt again, but I always thought this thing was a space monkey in one of those old bubble-style spacesuit helmets. You know, what with the low-G floaty jumps?
My roommate Trent liked this guy so much he made a 3D printable version to hang out with his Ninja Turtles figures. Man, this is going to take way longer than I expected. Okay, guys, here's the deal. There's a lot of these guys, and we're only halfway through the baddies, so two-parter. Catch you next time.
Thanks for joining us on this rundown of the forgotten foes of the Fightin' Four. Who's your favorite among this menagerie of mediocrity? Who would you like to see in a future Turtles reboot? Let us know in the comments. And if you really like the stuff we do, we've also got a Patreon where you can pick subjects for us to riff, and who knows what else might happen. See you in another video!
And while you're mulling it over, what vintage video games do you think have some fun or just weird bestiaries? We've got a few more on our list we'll be hitting, but the old game libraries are vast and we might not know a real gem. Ideally, we're looking at the 80s through the 90s. Again, let us know in the comments, and hey, hit that like button, ding the bell to get alerts, and subscribe! Geek Vision.